Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, is aggressively but accurately calling out Ron DeSantis for the person that he is, within the context of saying he could be charged with kidnapping for his stunts in regard to migrants, and it seems under a false pretense relocating asylum seekers to different places, again misleading them into this operation, this action, and that would be, it seems, against the law, even though obviously we're not expecting Ron DeSantis, a powerful person, to be held accountable in that way. But I'll show you from a past example of this, a little bit of news, and then the current California related one, and then we'll look at Gavin Newsom calling out Ron DeSantis. So this is from the Miami Herald. Texas sheriff recommends criminal charges in DeSantis' migrant flights to Martha's Vineyard. A Texas Sheriff's Department has recommended that the district attorney in Bexar County bring criminal charges over the first iteration of Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' so-called migrant relocation program. Those flights last September sent 49 asylum seekers, most of them Venezuelans, from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. So really wild situation. Y'all probably remember, it seems the DeSantis administration misled migrants into, for some reason, the Floridian government was facilitating relocating them from San Antonio to Martha's Vineyard. And then more recently, this is from Politico, the feud between Gavin Newsom and Ron DeSantis is getting nastier, and that's how both of them won it. The two governors have spent more than a year sparring over book bans, abortion, guns, and more. Then yesterday, the California Democrat suggested DeSantis could face state criminal charges after more than a dozen asylum seekers were flown to Sacramento and left at a Catholic church. The flight was similar to one the DeSantis administration facilitated last fall, carrying almost 50 mostly Venezuelan migrants from Texas to Martha's Vineyard, that caused a national furor and reignited the long-running debate over immigration. So with that, because this is of course having to do with Sacramento, California, is where we pick up here with Gavin Newsom during a recent Today Show interview.
Flights of asylum seekers that are being brought to Sacramento, there have been two of them now. They've been described as state-sanctioned kidnapping by the Attorney General of this state, of California. You tweeted directly at the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. I want to get this right. You called him a small, pathetic man and asked, quote, kidnapping charges? Is that what you believe happened, Governor Newsom, that Florida kidnapped migrants and brought them to California?
I think I'm being generous, small, and pathetic. Very generous. He's just weakness masquerading as strength. Yeah, he's flailing, desperate for attention. Let's just level set here. Let's level set. Here's a governor from the state of Florida that is using taxpayer money, and he had to go to another state to find people under false pretense. I don't think this, I know this. I talked to the migrants, lied to them, took them into another state by bus, and then took them on a chartered flight to Sacramento, lying to them that they had help on the other side, knocked on the door, and they left these migrants right there on the steps. What kind of human being does that?
Ron DeSantis.
Absolutely. And credit to Gavin Newsom. So often the GOP attacks against the Democratic Party or Democratic candidates, leaders, will be so aggressive. And then the response from Democratic leaders is just dealing with the situation with kid gloves. And that's not what this moment calls for. Don't revert to dishonesty or dehumanization or anything like that, but be aggressive, be powerful and impactful and clear with your response, and in calling out dangerous leaders like Ron DeSantis, dishonest leaders like Ron DeSantis, who here could have violated the law in misleading migrants for what? A political stunt to relocate them, a political stunt. And in the middle of this, for what, his presidential campaign, so he can have get some brownie points from certain voters. Caught in the middle of that are human lives, human beings, and they're the ones being hurt by his actions. And this is not what you do if you actually are trying to work toward a solution, even on the subject of, let's say, there's logistical problems with the Floridian government, which he's going to other states, obviously not with the numbers, but even so, okay, you want to coordinate with another state to try to relocate. You would actually coordinate and try to come up with a plan. It wouldn't be what we've seen from Abbott and DeSantis. That's just for the purposes of a stunt, because it's an obvious attempt to create a little moment of logistical chaos to then heighten their own talking points about migrants, about the different fear-mongering kind of discussions we hear going on so often, but it's not actually in the interest of a solution to any of these potential problems logistically or humanitarian problems when it comes to asylum seekers or the southern border or whatever it might be. And that's what's so enraging. It's doing the opposite of what you would do if you actually cared about a solution, and that's what makes so clear to everyone, or I wish it made so clear to everyone, how it's not a good faith action whatsoever. And it does represent, as Gavin Newsom said, a very weak, what was his specific language here? I'm not finding the exact language, pathetic man, I think he said as well. And it's one of the lines he's used multiple times is weakness masquerading as strength. And that is what a lot of these politicians are, who use groups that are already so dehumanized, so fear-mongered about, as kind of a punching bag for their own political gain. That's not strength. That's not strength at all. We talk about this a lot. We did earlier in today's show with Trump. A lot of these individuals who want to portray themselves as some sort of, maybe they would call it alpha male or strong leader, actually so often show us with their actions their own weakness. And I do think that is something that Gavin Newsom is correctly identifying with Ron DeSantis.